What if I was to tell you that the world that you're living in right now, that you are only using maybe 5% of your capability? You are now tuned in to another episode. My boy Jay-Bit in the house. Marlo, so what's up, bro?
What's happening also?
Disclaimer, videos that we're going to be playing here, Wai'us does not own any of them. This is all pure entertainment purposes.
That's it. That's where we're heading. And we're more than the last time we talked about the move. For some reason that caught fire.
Why, Oos? Why do you say that to us, bro?
Mythology, like I'm saying, I don't necessarily believe in this. For those who doesn't know, I'm a ordained minister. So
So
background,
what
right?
the what so first of all, what is a mythology?
They're ancient stories that were passed on to generation, whether true or not, that's up to you to decide.
Why does everything in the English word always ends with a G? G-Y. Everything's like a, you know, biology, treology. You get what I'm saying, bro? Do you understand? Yeah. So anyways, I'm just only talking from a coconut's mind. Like, why does everything gotta have a G on the end, or the G? You ever thought about that, Oos?
Yeah, you have to ask the English, like, majors over here.
Anyways,
I
yeah,
know,
before we steer out, bro.
let's stay on subject, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and as you know, I'm in the science field related to communication and electricity. But I wanted to explore that related to what if this world that we're living in is not real? Yes,
Okay, let's go with that.
but there are rules in this world that we have to play by. One, you can choose the negative side. You can choose the positive side. And the positive side, they call it the light beings or the qualities of the divine beings or God that we so call, right? That's all. And then, in electricity, when I was building circuit boards related to thermostat, resistors, and all that, what I found a common, thing for a current, I was trying to find the fastest way to get back to the source. I mean, I'm just speaking about like the electricity. It doesn't matter if you put parallel, path down the road, it will always find the easiest, fastest way to get back to the source. So if you remember the last time I talked to about the first law of thermodynamics, that we all came from singularity or a source, that we ended up going back to it. And scientifically proven we're all energy, like your body, right? We're made of 50 plus trillion cells. Did you know each our individual cells contains 0.07 potential electricity?
No, I have no idea. You lost me at like the point zero and all the electricity in our body. But I can see why, because if you're grabbing a doorknob or something, you touch the surface of something, you get that static, and you're like, you get shocked.
Yeah, because your body's unbalanced. It has to be balanced with the positive and negative. And when you walk, it creates a friction. Friction that creates unbalance in your body. So our body is a conductor. So in individual cells, we have 0.007, 0.004, 0.04, whatever. So in other words, you have
And what is that? What is that point off of? When you're saying 0.00, like there's like a little piece or a little bit of energy or electricity in our body. Is that what you when you're saying 0.00? I'm not good at math, so that's why I'm trying to get
oh,
educated, bro.
yeah. So if I say 0.07, 0.004, whatever electricity in your body, any body right now has a potential to power your whole city. You know that video game that came out a long time ago? Like, that guy that has electricity in his body? I forgot what it is.
Sonic
And
the Hedgehog,
no, there was another guy but look it up.
Raiden, Raiden from Street Fighter.
Well, there was another one. Like in our cells has voltage that it's potential. I'm not saying you can use it, but they call it scientifically said potential voltage. You can power up the whole city with your body. So it's our body's energy. But anyways, so what I'd like to go with this. Nikola Tesla discovered the alternating current and all his discoveries, he discovered it and he say is already exist. He just discovered realizing how the magnetic field in our universe where Earth works. So he's the one who discovered the theory of like wireless and all that, like alternate current and everything that we use nowadays. Nikola Tesla, he said, day science began to study non-physical phenomenon, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. What he's trying to say, like, as soon as the science turned to study the non-physical world, we'll make more progress than ever before.
Okay, so like what we're basically like the Moon Nation and all that stuff.
Yeah, the like the spirits, the energy, and all that. Back way then, Council of Trent of Roman Catholic, they came together and they say, okay, you scientists, you study the physical universe. But we, the Pope and the priests and all that, we study the spiritual. The moment you scientists cross over to try to study the non-physical universe, we'll kill you. What did the history shows about related to that fact of the
A lot of
science?
people got destroyed. A lot of
Yeah,
people got destroyed
exactly.
and taken out.
Yeah, a lot of people got burned, persecuted, and all that. Galileo was the only thing was like, hey, the earth is going around the sun. And the church was like, no, you're defying the church. The sun goes around the earth. And you know what? They burned him alive. So in that time, nobody defies the church. Scientists scientists stay out of the way. So they basically develop a culture that science is separate from spirituality. So you see, there's two cultures right now that we see. It all goes back to Council of Trent because of that separation. So that's why we are separate and related. Oh well, science is separate from churches and spirituality or faith, as they call it.
So whatever country has colonized your island or your country, and then that place has been rooted with the beliefs of whatever that beliefs is. For example, UK, European, they have colonized a lot of the Pacific Islands, which is then brought into practice of Christianity. You have Asia, which obviously, whatever the dynasty is, they brought in Buddhism. You go to India, Hinduism, and all sorts. And then, of course, the East, the Middle East of the Iran or whatever you call the practices. What? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's go back to because of the Council of Trent is separate, like scientist versus spirituality. But now we want to combine science and spirituality. Now we're starting to have a progression to relate it to study the, as Tesla call it like studying the non-physical phenomena. So first, quantum mechanic. This reality is not real. And one is based on scientific fact.
When a laser emits beams of light particles called photons at a screen with two slits, you'd expect to see two strips to correspond with the two slits. Instead, we see a pattern of light and dark bands. This suggests that light behaves like waves that pass through both slits simultaneously, interfering with each other to create the pattern on the second screen. However, when scientists used a measuring device to observe the slit that each photon passed through, the interference pattern disappeared and two strips appeared. The act of observing which slit it went through changed the behavior of the photons. No one knows why observing a particle causes its behavior to change.
What is the whole point of the two slits? Like, it's obviously going into different directions.
There are photons, they're like particles, right? We're all made of atoms. So what it is when you look at these particles or photon shooting, when you look at it, it acts as like a single, as they call it, like, a point. Like you only see like a laser point, right? You see a laser going through it. And in the back wall, you see like dots, just one row of dots. But what happened is the scientists realized when they go eat lunch and all that without observing, it acts differently. It behaves differently. It's like there's no one thought like a laser. It acts like as a wave, like appears different way all over.
And what do they think what was the cause of it?
The observation, the measurement. So when there's a conscious person or measurement to look at it, it forces the atom to behave in a certain way. Like I'm looking at you, I'm holding a laptop computer. So because I'm looking at this, it behaves as a computer. It's a solid state, like, atom. But according to this science, like scientific, if I look away, this computer doesn't exist. It moves around, it floats around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wherever
But
your sight of direction is going, that's where your focus is at, I guess.
yes, because we're consciously observing it. If anything, like a conscious being will observe it, it will create a dot. But if you don't, that dot will create access like, for example, Kenny, you're there. I'm looking at you, Kenny. But if I don't focus on you, Kenny, there's no Kenny. Kenny will be here. Kenny will be in Italy. Kenny will be in like, Europe. Kenny, there's multiple Kennys. There's no Kennys. Split experiment. So it's reality what creates this physical universe.
Oh, yeah, there's it's wherever your focus or your vision is at, that's what you're committing yourself to. But if you take a step back and process it from what you studied and implement that in, then you're able to visualize or even come to believe into there's more to what the Oni is able to see.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's it. We're going to that same. It's how we perceive and consciously perceive something that will come like real.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying, and we'll get to it. But it's now we're getting to more of a collective, like thinking or conscious to believe in a certain way that builds the whole reality that we're in.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then again, this is scientific facts. I'm not like just pulling this out of my butt. So the
Yeah.
next is the video I sent you is called Quantum Entanglement. Now this is the one like me and one of my friends would discuss lengthily related to quantum entanglement.
Let's say we take two electrons very close together and they vibrate in unison. Everything vibrates. Two particles together vibrate in unison. Now separate them. As you separate these two coherent particles, an invisible umbilical cord starts to develop between these two particles, such that if you wiggle one particle, then the other particle is aware of the fact that its partner is being wiggled. So far, so good, right? But now separate these particles by the distance of the galaxy itself. So here on one end of the galaxy, we wiggle an electron, and on the other side of the galaxy, 100,000 light years distance, instantly, faster than the speed of light, the other particle is aware of the fact that its twin is wiggling.
So he's talking about like two particles get it associated for the period of time, and you pull one out and send it to Mars. Whatever I do with this one particle will affect that one, and even time. In a different time, whatever I do with this particle, it will affect the other one. And people don't realize because of we have a heavy mass here on Earth, time moves a lot slower in space versus Earth. And they have a scientific proof of that, of a pilot flying around the Earth. If you send a pilot up there and make them go faster like the speed of light, they will come down here, they will time travel, and everybody will be old. Gravity, heavy mass here on Earth, times move a little bit faster, but up there it moves slower unless you move faster than the speed of light. You will time travel up there in space with speed of light. When you come back, everybody's old. So related to what he just mentioned, two particle, if I entangle, you know what? That just throw out the theory of the speed of light. It's faster. Quantum entanglement, whatever you entangle, it doesn't matter in space, somewhere in the universe, whatever you do with this particle, it will affect that one. That's Einstein called it the spooky, like, theory. He went down unhappy because he couldn't figure out what that is. What's entanglement? Because what happened is the scientists now realize when you put two particles together and you pull it apart, they became one wavelength. So it doesn't matter when you send it way out in space, they're interconnected. Like, remember we talked about it? Everything is connected. There's a field out there that's connected. So, and that's why people feel like the scientists, oh, there's a possibility that we can break our atoms apart and transport to a different planet if we come up with a technology, because everything is interconnected related to that theory.
It seems like the science has proven its theory, but we as have not witnessed it, where you're saying that our bodies can actually multiply into pieces and transport to something else. I mean, the only thing that comes close to that is when you either gaining weight or losing weight, physical wise,
Okay.
is the only difference of it.
What if we're not there yet? Maybe that time has come. Will come.
So why is it taking this so long though? For centuries and years, if we're not there yet.
We're being programmed to suppress ourselves of knowledge.
They make a lot of movies and books and even books about Santa Claus, somebody you believe in, or even the demigods or gods themselves. And when the people stop believing in them, that's their power. That's where their power goes away then, because now we're no longer entertaining it. Having that spirit of like, oh, it's Christmas, Santa Claus is going to come give all the kids presents. Or demigods in the islands, like they're no longer being practiced or believed in.
Perhaps we're approaching the age that we're all going to be like, we'll eventually receive the divine knowledge, how to go about it, the golden age, as some of them speak. But all I'm saying is, what sharing is perhaps the reality is not real, but we feel like it's real. But you have to play the game. Like,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oops, I just thought about something, bro. What if a group of people that are very powerful to persuade a population or a community to change their mindset and to become slave to them? What if this new thing is called AI, artificial intelligence, meaning that they're advertising it on the media. They're trying to force people's mindset to be like, look, man, this is the future. But what if we already have that already going, but they're just throwing a little bit of nugget in there and still covering it up and making it sound like, oh, it's a technology thing. But us as human beings are not realizing as a group, as a world, to come to our senses and be like, no, we are all gods or creators of certain things. You know what I'm saying? I just thought about that, bro.
okay. So your question is about,
What if AI is the next Antichrist for all the Christians who they say?
so that's
What
what
if
you're
it's,
trying to say.
yeah, trying to
Okay.
blind us still?
That's
You see what I'm
that's
saying?
that's a valid question related to this. Well, as I'm trying to describe, we are more than, I believe, like, based on what research and other. It seemed like our bodies we're capable more than AI. And
Yes.
there's this new agenda of AI, and it seemed like they're trying to incorporate neural links, like technology, put things in our brain, and more like computerized or like robots in our bodies. What There's a big warning from the spiritual teachers. They say don't do that because our body is more than those.
Yes.
Because our body contains, I call it, light beings. We're, like I said, we're from the source, from God, right? The divine, their energy, light beings. Well, many call it soul, but I like the word light because it doesn't, it comes from source. But if you decide to put those things in your body, then you're destroying the most powerful system ever created. It's your human body. And that's why I'm talking about our human bodies. What if we're being suppressed what our human body is capable of?
I believe that. I believe that because it's even trained in the military. Now, again, for those, I was never in the military. My wife has, and I've been associated around a whole bunch or affiliated with a group and community of military. And I used to work out with a few of them, and I always used to hear that saying, "Mind over matter."
Yes.
And it's basically, I might be saying it wrong, but it has something to do with like when we're doing some workouts, something I've never done in my life, like let's just say run for 3 miles. In
Yes.
my mind, because I've never done it before, I'm judging myself that, oh man, this is impossible. But then after doing it, the whole point is like you have to trigger your brain because your body can handle more than what your brain is telling you it can handle. There you go.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah. Then did you know that the Bible contained that principle? Like Jesus talks about
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, I knew growing up in
he did.
Pentecostal, our whole point was like,
That's it's
the
power
faith.
of the mind, power of the mind, power of the belief. And
Mhm.
then he said, when you pray, well, you got to understand, Jesus is trying to talk to deep-rooted religious people. So he has the understanding, but he's kind of like make them progress. Like, well, you have to have the belief and pray and believe that it's already happened, then eventually it's going to happen. But again, our brain, like you said, is being programmed to be negative of what our upbringing, to be locked in a certain way of thinking that that's how we know and we believe that's the only way. Like our cultures, religion, governmental system. But if we break out of that, or if we come out of that, as the spiritual teachers talks about, perhaps we're more than what the beliefs is, and we're gonna get to the point of utilizing the power of our mind and our body, be able to perhaps have some superpowers. The third video talks about DNA and phantom effect.
In a groundbreaking experiment, scientists Poponin and Garyaev explored how DNA influences light particles or photons in a vacuum tube. Initially, as expected, photons were scattered randomly inside the empty tube. However, upon introducing human DNA, the photons organized into distinct patterns, defying conventional physics. Even more astonishing, when the DNA was removed, the photons remained ordered, suggesting a lingering, unseen influence. This phenomenon, that was named as the DNA phantom effect, hinted at an unknown energy field linking DNA to photons. The findings imply a profound connection between living material and the fundamental particles of our universe. Poponin's work suggests that our DNA can shape the very fabric of reality, offering a glimpse into a mysterious new force at play. This revelation opens the door to a deeper understanding of how life interacts with the energy around us, transforming both science and spirituality.
As they discovered with that experiment, the German scientists, they suck all the vacuum out of this tube, right? And the only thing was left in this tube was photons. Photons, it's light. And what happened is they're all over the place. But as soon as they inserted blood or DNA, human DNA into, you know what started happening? Like it described, it moves in a pattern, moves in
A
a
certain pattern. Yeah, it's
yeah,
an own DNA, and when you remove the DNA, that pattern's
exactly.
still there, exists.
So how is this applied to us? So it shows that this physical body, your body can, or my body, can affect the exterior world. That's what it's trying to say. Like this world's move like until this physical body is interact with that. And you know what they say? The power of our mind, like you said earlier, is powerful, can perhaps affect the exterior things. And I hate to say this because many people will say that's law of attraction. Well, yeah, you can say law of attraction, but these things been around for a long time. That's what the new movement of the new age and all that. I'm not for them, but these it's been around for ages. That like we talked about, there's just a field. There's a field that governs everything, that connects everything. And that's what people are starting to realize, and scientists are starting to prove. Well, they are proven there's a field that interconnect everything. It's just how we use that field. That's the next stage. It seems like the evolution of man are moving toward to. But the problem is because of our belief and government suppressing certain knowledge or belief that we're not capable of doing it yet, but it seemed like we had the capability of doing it. Let's show our last video, the 100 monkeys effect.
When this baby monkey washed a sweet potato, she started what scientists later called the 100 monkey effect. Her mother saw her and quickly learned that washing food could remove dirt, and gradually, more and more macaque monkeys started doing the same. Here's where it gets weird. These monkeys were on a remote island, and when 100 of them learned to wash their food, monkeys on other islands that didn't have any physical contact with the first group also started washing their food. Scientists believe that the 100 monkey effect happens when a critical number of individuals in a group learn a behavior. It spontaneously spreads to others, even across physical barriers. But it's just speculation, and we only have anecdotal evidence.
Oh, the new thing right now is called social media. Influencers.
Exactly.
Influencers. Yeah.
Now you're getting there. That's where I'm going. Because in ancient time or our ancestors, there's no interconnect like thinking they unify worldwide. But because of social media, internet, and all that, we're trying to come in harmony, right? A certain thinking that is almost, if it based on this, it can create a certain level of reality or moving to a higher consciousness, as they call it. So, how is this related to our last subject? Related? Well, in mythology or ancient history, the Atlanteans was before Adam and Eve, right? And I'll try to keep it short. Before them were the Moors or the Lemurians, right? It seemed like that was the popular one.
Yeah,
Lemurians.
but let's cover the Atlantic.
Okay, the Atlantis.
Base it off of everything that you just shared with us for the past 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and close it
Well,
out with the Atlantis.
so Atlantis is Plato, the Greek philosopher, is big on Atlantis. He talks about Atlantis was real, and he was initiated by the same traditions as Salmon carry, like story passed on down and on. Tesla talks about studying the non-phenomenal, non-physical items, non-physical or basically quantum mechanics. Right now, we have scientists are diving into that. Now it's hard to understand how energy and those things work. There's a museum of a well-known sleeping prophet called himself Edgar Casey, and he's a devout Christian, has a certain gift, and because of him, they document so many like prediction and things in the past. He said he can be able to tap into this field, like we're talking about, this matrix field that collects information, use that information to help individuals, such as health issues, and help them to heal. He was the originator of the holistic medicine or natural medicine. So, but in us, we call it psychic, but in scientific term, remote viewing. And if you look at CIA project Stargate, they had a group of people they gathered in US to study. They have that certain gift of remote viewers, meaning they can tap in this field and be able to perceive things. And they also have an institute like his name is Robert Monroe. He has a whole institution of teaching people how to remote view. So what I'm trying to say is, Edward Casey, he foresee the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was discovered in 1940s. He died in 1942 or 43. 10 years before that, he predicted, okay, there's a group called the Essenes that carried this manuscript that Jesus came from the Essenes. Like, what were they? Qumran, that's when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves were the book of Isaiah, like, 2,000 year older than the surviving manuscript right now. And they also predict that's where Jesus was taught. Yeshua that we know of. And it makes sense because when we think about John, he talks about he's from the wood, right? The woods, like, he's from like middle of nowhere, but the Essenes were from the woods, from the caves. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a potential in all of us, and it seemed like we're moving to a certain age, as we call it, or the Bible call it Armageddon, and with destruction and everybody go to heaven. But what if that's not, you know, the real prophecy? What if we're moving to the different age of, as I mentioned previously, Aquarius, meaning according to the Eastern beliefs is incarnation, right? And what happened is, as Kenny, as your mom passed away, you go back to the real world, and that's we're eternal beings. I'm just saying this. I don't necessarily believe it. I'm telling the story how the Eastern beliefs is. Yeah, you still with me? You mentioned you feel like you're a god. Perhaps all the Eastern beliefs say, yeah, you are. Because why? First law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed. We're from the same source. You have this internal spark, internal energy of God. And that's what the Gnostic Christians were talking about. Um, they said there's this divine spark in us, but what happened is we're being suppressed by church government that you can't, all we rely now is outside. Okay, can I get a car? Can a car? I have to depend on like, like a certain belief. I have to depend on like Jesus to save me that or certain things. But in the Gospels, and even like the Gospel of Tom talks about, Kenny, you have to look inside. That's what, and you have to put in practice. Like we have to bring the spark out, and that's the only way to get to it, to be able to ascend. That's so to speak, and that's the Eastern teachings. So, in other words, what if we're approaching a new age, and the new age is that's the age of Aquarius, and that's what unified belief of humans, and will build technology, and there's no more government. It's more like going back to the Atlantean style and Lemurian style. There's no government, and more like beings that go in and out. What if that's the future? So, what do you think?
That's an interesting take right there, brother. It really is, man, because it's possible and only time will tell.
Yeah.
Reason why I say that, because I'm not alone at this where I feel like, I was God sent. I feel like a lot of our folks are aware of that, and they bring their inner self to calling out to them. But like you said, we get suppressed, whether it's by a relationship that you're in, your surrounding that you're in, or the job that you're in. It just depends what kind of lifestyle that you're currently in, changes your mind thinking of things. Could it also be too why a lot of like, the current news is like Puff Daddy. And then the other guy from the actor, the Epstein Island. Those are just one of the icons or the figureheads on the main screen that are like getting butchered because of the way they live their life and how they choose. I understand that the world is all about attacking them because of them with the way they treat women. But could it be that these two who came from nowhere, they were just poor people like us who was able to find something, and because of their belief in a capability in themselves, they started acting as if they were God, which then the world disapproves of, especially in the West of Christianity. Then paints them out to be perverts or just not right-minded people. I think a lot of that has to play of why these men have acted the way that they acted towards human beings. Never mind just women, but children. Were able to see the potential that they actually have, that they're more than just human. At least from their actions.
Right. I mean,
If that makes sense.
okay, so you're saying they act like gods, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
And that's what the Law of One was talking about. Like I mentioned it with you. It talks about we're all gods, right? We came from the same source. Today it's just right now, Kenny, your life right now, it's just one of your lives, of your many lives in the past, like you live and then but depending of two polarities, two energies, right? Remember there's a positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
And the godly polarity is it's obvious, right? Like positive, the light beings,
Yes.
right? And there's a negative one, which is so they may recognize yes of negative, and then the negative you can tell negative polarities, people that affect people in a negative way. That's how you see it. It's not you have to follow certain rules. Like we talked about this a while back. So like whatever you do, does it affect people in a good way or bad way? It's like does it affect, that's when it's going negative. But if you affect people in a loving way, because God is love, is everything's about love, then you're raising your vibration to the higher being. And that's what I did mention. They said if you reach a certain light level of being as compassion, love, and humility, then you enter because of ourselves. So ourselves were being so programmed to be stressed, right? And to be negative, to angry and all that. So we're always on the fight or flight mode. And what happened is our DNA is kind of like contract, is like stress out. But if you show compassion and love and kindness and in tune with your meditation and prayer. So your DNA start to unwind and release and start to create more DNAs. So what I'm trying to say is if you reach that level of like Jesus or Christ-like, love, compassion, none, then you can be able to do miraculous things. That's the truth. Seem like it.
I appreciate you, Jay-Bit, for always coming on our platform to put us into making our minds and look at a perspective in a different way. Because I feel at time a lot of our Polynesian folks are so, like you said, suppressed by the current state that we're in, whether it's in beliefs or in the culture that we're in. I thank you for the time, bro. Unfortunately, that we're going to have to cut it short right now due to unforeseen circumstances that just happened the next 5 minutes ago. Yeah, brother, we need to continue this on, man. To the listeners, I hope you enjoy it. Comment below. Let us know what you guys think about it, because we were going to talk about the Moo and the Atlantis, but hey, to be continued, yo. Tune in. Let us know if that's something that you guys like, man. Drop a comment below the link, man. Let us know what's up.
Yes, sir. And stay positive. Be godlike. That's all I gotta say.
I like that, man. Be godlike, man.
Godlike. Love, compassion, and kindness and prayer. That's all it is. That's what it matters.
He said it.
Tales of the hustle, dreams come alive, building the future, watch them strive. Why